Fourth, for each option, estimate the utility of each of its consequences, and lastly, identify the best prospect. It seems that the option Martha faces are this: keep the promise and give the money to the hunger task force. So the following table specifies probabilities and utilities for each consequence of each option. So the first option is keep promise, and its consequence is that Space gets the money and spends it on its own programs. Its probability is certainty, and the utility or the impact on human welfare is low. And as for the second option, which is give money to Hunger Task Force, has two consequences. The first one is that the HTF uses money to feed many hungry people. Its probability is high, and the impact on human welfare is very high. And as for its second consequence is that the action is discovered. Its probability is low, and the utility is somewhat lower than. We can use the information in this table to identify the best prospect. Since keeping the promise is certain to have only a small impact on human welfare, whereas giving the money to HTF is very likely to have a much bigger impact, with only a small chance of producing an outcome that is only somewhat worse than the certain outcome of keeping the promise. Giving the money to HTF or the Hunger Task Force is the best prospect. Consequently, it is the option that utilitarianism recommends.
The lack of detail of deontology in covering the public spheres are allegedly covered by the analytical detail of teleological ethics. Teleology is comprised of virtue ethics and consequentialism. In deontology, moral content of an action is not wholly dependent on consequences. Kant believed that ethical actions follow universal moral laws, so the action is judged rather than the consequences of the action. For Kant, reason in itself can only be the sensible foundation of what is ethical for man. If reason is the foundation of what is ethical, in turn its source can only be goodwill. This simply means that what is morally binding is rooted in reason as doable for the human person. The moral authority for Kant is immanent in man. That is, the origin of ethical obligation for man is his or her own goodwill.